Guys, Coach Coco here. I'm very excited about this IG Live. We got Nick hopping on with Daza Elite. He is phenomenal. He knows his stuff with injury prevention, coaching wrestling, teaching wrestling, being an athlete, the mindset. But I'm really excited for him to talk to you guys about injury prevention. That's a huge part of this, and also some of the innovative and tell us a little bit more. There he is. Perfect. Hey, there he is.
Hey, what's going on, Coach?
How are you, Nick?
Good, man. Just wrapping up a good lower body workout here.
That's awesome. I just did like a brief little intro, and I was telling the audience like Nick is somebody who has some pretty innovative and effective ways, especially in like terms of injury prevention. So, why don't you tell us a little bit? Obviously, it's different because it's for your own training, but some of the exercises, some of the things you've been doing to
Yeah,
help your body.
yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I'm very big on injury prevention, and the reason why is because I dealt with a lot of injuries when I was wrestling in college, right? So, one of the things that I do a little bit differently from a traditional approach is I focus on building strength not only in the muscles, but also in the joints and the connective tissue, which for wrestlers or any type of combat athlete is huge because your joints and connective tissue are exposed to really high levels of force in our types of sports compared to everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like getting that connective tissue to be resilient. Like we use the term resilient in terms of mental training, being able to bounce back, but like our joints and our muscles and ligaments, they need to be able to take the strength because obviously this is what's happening. To use a visual real quick, like, so what are some injuries you've had? And I know your story obviously because we chat off, but like maybe talk about the shoulder or the knees, like bulletproofing it for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, injuries for me started with the ankles, went up to both knees. So, sprained both LCLs, fully tore my MCL and my meniscus. I was told by a doctor in college that I needed to get surgery and that my knee was never going to be the same again. Those were his exact words. And after hearing that, I was determined to prove him wrong because that's just the type of person I am. And yeah, separated my AC joint completely, sprained both my UCLs, wrists. So yeah, I've dealt with pretty much any injury you could think of, back spasms on and off. The biggest things that have helped me are a combination of, yeah, strength training for the joints, also focusing on movement, not just isolating individual muscle groups, right? So as human beings, before we specialize in any sport, we're humans first. And if you can't move like a functional human being, you're going to run into issues no matter what sport or activity you choose to specialize in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you brought up the fact that we're humans and we're not robots. So like a big part of being a coach, even with the skills standpoint, and being a college coach like is auto regulating. So
Hmm.
like how are the guys entering the wrestling room? Are they flat or are they hyped up? And you have to be able to read that and you may have to change your practice plan because they're not robots, they're college kids. Lack of sleep, like finals week, right? Or midterms, like that's something you have to adjust to as a coach, or any type of like external factor. So again, programming is great. There's a lot of great templates out there, but you have to be able to modify and regulate. I think and I've been talking about that a lot, like peaking and what are your thoughts on that periodization? Like, what have you read? What is stuff that you're interested in right now? Because that's interesting to me too, like books and what are you researching right now in that regard?
Yeah,
Periodization, stuff like that.
yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to like peaking at the right time, I think the biggest part is just kind of like not taking the foot off the pedal entirely, but yeah, eliminating any volume that's not essential, right? Getting the minimum effective dose, so you're getting that stimulus of, yeah, you're still working your strength, still working your flexibility, but you don't have to be in the gym for an hour like the week that you need to peak for, whether it's state or nationals or whatever. You don't need to spend a ton of time in the gym that week. You need to focus on your sport, honing your craft, and fine tuning those little technical details.
Yeah, I know it's like crazy coming from a coach like yourself, but there's still teams and there's still guys like not strength training in season and not lifting all year long. And like, I don't like to use the term lifting. Obviously, if anyone works with you, it's like lifting is just like one way, one means of resistance. Like you have body weight, bells, calisthenics. Like we can get crazy on this IG
100%.
live, but I just take lifting to like to say like strength and conditioning. Let's just call it for right
Yeah.
now. But it's so important. And yeah, you're right. Like the skill is everything. I think you got to have teams that think they're doing November practices in February. Like it can't be that way. You're going to burn guys out. Did you agree with that? How do you
Yeah,
feel about
absolutely.
as a
It's
former,
funny.
as a guy who was in the college realm? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in the college realm, I actually was given a strength and conditioning template by one of the coaches that I worked with, and he had gotten handed down the same template from another coach, and it was clearly something that a lot of coaches believed in. They thought, yeah, this is the way to go. And I was absolutely shocked by just how bad it was in terms of just burning guys out, right? So essentially, it was saying like, yeah, you don't want to do any heavy lifting during the season. You just want to go high reps to build endurance. And I was like, as someone who studied like strength and conditioning, I was like, wait, what? I was like, this is how you burn somebody's joints into the ground because you still need that high rate of force development. You still need to maintain your strength throughout the season. If you just go high reps, like yeah, you're just gonna grind your joints into the dirt.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like that high rep stuff, if you're looking at like the 15 and up, like that's all muscular endurance.
Yeah,
So you're not building hypertrophy. So like what I typically, and yours programming is different, but even when it comes to lower body, like I'm only doing low rep. I'm trying to increase heavier weights and lower reps. Like I don't need a kid to walk around campus with like straight up DOMs all day. So
yeah,
like you remember that when you started lifting, you're like, yeah, 20 rep squats, like this crazy
yep,
like that's cool for a little bit, but eventually you have to graduate from that with age, but also like it does make guys really sore, and then it's taking away from their actual skill training, wrestling,
exactly.
because it's just not. And then if you have like a general population client, are you really going to tell them to walk around sore?
Right, like it doesn't benefit
Yes.
them in any way.
And I just think there's better ways to do things. And we're talking about like the high rep. You can make strength gains in season. I know we kind of went into this. You can get a lot stronger in season. And I think that's a lot of strength coaches are like more on the maintain mode, which I get. But I think you can really push strength, especially with upper weights and things like that.
Oh
What was
yeah,
I think clients and some, transformations with those wrestlers at up there? Do you
yeah.
have stories for us with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the biggest thing is like it's all about how you periodize it and how you program it, kind of how you were saying earlier.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I had guys hit weighted dip PRs middle of the season, week before conferences. They're hitting 2, 3 plates on weighted dips, full range of motion. So yeah, I think the notion that you can't hit PRs in season is definitely an outdated mindset. Um, from my
Definitely.
experience, like it's all about how you structure it because the college season is a long season, right? So if you kind of break it down into smaller cycles and you plan around when guys are competing the most, you sometimes you have those breaks, right? And so you can plan to go really hard on the weights and building strength when you're not competing as often, right? Say like around winter break before guys get back on campus, focus on building strength during that time when they're not wrestling as much, and then when they got to compete more often during dual meet season, taper down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to one of my clients about intercession, how like that's like the fork in the road. So this athlete in particular is a freshman at the college level and who's like doing great things. Obviously, being confidential. That could be like any, that could be multiple. But point being is, I was saying that like if you can, like, wrestling is like a war of attrition. It's really like last man standing. So if you can avoid the injuries and the burnout and the bad weight cuts, like as long as you're there and being consistent, like you're gonna be ahead of the pack time January comes in. That January time is really like a big time to get the lifting in, strength and conditioning, like you said, and making like massive gains on the mat. If you, it's just getting there,
Yeah,
and
yeah, absolutely.
that's where the mindset training comes in, and kind of the stuff that I've been talking about, focusing on the process. Like, what do you feel like if you could go back and talk to your younger self? What would, but outside, obviously the injury prevention, the shoulder, knees. What else would you do differently? You think that you help clients with now, help athletes with now?
The biggest thing that I would go back outside of strength training differently would, like, mentally, you have to have a routine that you go through every match. Like, we put so much emphasis on the physical side of things, and I know you totally understand this, but a lot of athletes out there, they still don't understand how important it is to have a clear mental routine before every competition. My biggest struggle as an athlete was consistency. Like, I beat guys that were ranked in the country, and then I'd lose to a guy that had no business beating me, right? Because I wasn't consistent with my mental preparation before every single match. And for me, I didn't really get into it until later on in my career. But if you have a set routine that allows you to enter competition in the same state, like the same mental and physical state every single time, it's going to make you so much more consistent as far as your performances. You can't control the outcome, but if you can control the way you prepare and go into every match with the same attitude and mindset, you're going to perform more consistently overall.
Definitely, I totally agree. As you know, of course, consistent routines lead to consistent outcomes.
Hmm.
Consistency leads to championships. CC, Coach
Yeah.
Coco. Consistency, the consistent championship. So, like, you see the best teams, the best programs, the Nick Sabans, the Coach K's, football, basketball, obviously wrestling,
Hmm.
which I think it helps sometimes if somebody looked at like Kobe Bryant or you looked at certain athletes, maybe it's a boxing or MMA, like you look at kind of what they're doing and you're like, okay, how are they able to win or succeed consistently? That's the common theme here is consistency.
Yeah.
So consistent routines, and when we're talking about specifically is getting into that zone. So like I just sent some clients this, and you probably know about the inverted U, like the peak and lower arousal, higher arousal, getting into that zone. The
Yeah.
kids are, yo, coach, I'm dialed in. Or, yo, they're all locked in. That's why I think it's funny. All locked in, all dialed in. It's all the same thing. Zen, zone. It's all the same thing. They're talking about being
Yeah.
in that gray area.
Flow state. Yeah.
So whatever you want to call it, I'm cool with an athlete calling it whatever they want. Like whatever you want to call it, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. And I guess that's what you're talking about too, right? Finding that zone.
100%.
How do you do that now? Maybe you're getting ready for a workout, getting ready for an event of some sort. Maybe you're helping your high school guys.
Uh, Breath work for me is the biggest thing, right? So I think this is honestly something that I don't see popularized at all. But a lot of athletes, when they train, and they're, especially when they're lifting, right? Lifting all this heavy weight, they're holding their breath. They're like trying to
Yeah.
push the weight, right? You're not getting any oxygen to your brain. You're not getting any oxygen to your body, right? And so focusing on the flow of your breathing when you're exercising is super powerful. But even before you train or before you compete, taking a couple minutes to just close your eyes, focus on the flow of your breathing, because your breathing is going to determine the state that your body's in, right? Whether you're in fight or flight or calm, relaxed, collected state. So tapping into breathing is one of the best ways, and then also some type of physical activity that also stimulates the mind. So my two favorites are juggling and rope flow, because they're physical activities, so you're warming up the body, but there's a lot of neural input that's happening while you're doing those activities, so your mind is making new connections, and they're really good for tapping into that flow state right away.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I like how you're connecting like the left side and the right side of the brain. So we'll get into it really quick because this is what we're here for, right? Like so it's easy for people to remember. I have no idea where this weird like this filter came, but you have two parts of your brain. One's more logic, we'll say, facts, and the other one's creativity, exploration. We'll just keep it very, very simple. Left logic, right create. We'll keep it very, very. I'm not an artistic guy. I've never been in that realm, but I like respect it. So I think on a higher level, when we're talking about mental training, like you have to understand, brain has two parts.
Hmm.
So Nick, as this Nick Daza Elite saying is that he's getting them tapping into breath work and rope and flow state drills, juggling. And so, yeah, you're tapping into the different parts of the brain by doing that, really, to not get too technical for the listeners. But I love it. I think it's great. I mean, old school boxers like used to do juggling and obviously jump rope. Like there's something there, like success leaves clues, right? So there's something there for us to now implement with our own athletes, our own clients. And I really like the breath work. What I do with my clients is before a match or before a competition, breathing before and after. So taking those, like the box breathing, like 4-7-4, so whatever tempo we can use,
Yeah.
because slow down, especially if they're a high arousal, high anxiety guy. Maybe with a person who's not that, which we can get into, some people are different. Some people need big hype up, and some people need to be pulled back. So
Yep.
maybe Metallica or Guns N' Roses before the match. Maybe they need Beethoven, right?
Right.
So um, I know we're getting into the weeds, but this is stuff that I do typically with like assessment and evaluation, like finding out their personality. Are you a not a are you a Dan Gable? Are you an Iowa guy? Are you like you need to get smacked in the face? Are you a tough hands? Because that's a type of athlete. Or are you like I don't know, like lay on the mat and sleep?
Yeah.
So I use the extremes, but do you get where I'm coming from with that?
No,
How
100%. I I didn't realize it until later on in my wrestling career. I benefit from laying on the mat and sleeping. I didn't start doing it until college, but my high school coach, like halfway through high school, started telling me like, yeah, just calm it down. Because I used to be one of those guys that was be doing the knee tuck jumps like right before going to wrestle, like
yeah,
jumping up and down. And when I started just like chilling, walking, relaxing my breathing,
yeah.
yeah, I started performing better. And then one of my assistant coaches, shout out to Coach Blanco at W&J. He was my assistant coach at the time. Yeah,
Oh,
in between every match, he'd be like, "Go to sleep." He'd literally tell me, "Go in the bleachers, go to sleep," because
knows.
if I didn't sleep, I would just overthink the whole situation. But if I woke up and if I was like still kind of half asleep and I just went out and wrestled, like I just performed so much better because I wasn't thinking.
That's a big part. Yeah, that's where we go into. Obviously, we're turning this into. We're talking about a lot of wrestling, like knowing your moves, having your
Yeah,
play, which is something I've been trying to reinforce. I hear a lot of other coaches talking about this now, but I think it's good. I think like you should have a favorite takedown series. Like you have to plant the seed early in the kids. Like you could even do it with the like it could change, but like what's your favorite takedown?
oh,
What's your number one?
underhook, high crotch, all day.
You got to, and the athlete, the coach needs to be able to respond
Hmm.
post high crotch. You know, you need to. It's got to be that. It's good, and then you won't. It'll eliminate a lot of the hesitation and decision and a lot of the mental blocks in an actual match. So that's an activity we'll have them do. Like write your number one from neutral top bottom. What's your plan B? What are you doing if you're down by 6? I guess you could say 7 now with the new rule. So
Right.
when people are like, oh, Coach Coco, like, what do you do? That's why this is great. Like, this is something that's an example of an activity,
Yeah.
game plan, and sending it back to me, and then us reiterating it. It's a working document. It's not like a one and done,
Right.
right? They're getting
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. Because your wrestling is going to change as you evolve, but you need to have some type of strategy. It's like the art of war. Like you wouldn't go into a life or death situation not having a plan. Like if you were a soldier going to battle. So like it only makes sense that if you're going into, obviously wrestling isn't that deep, but it is a combat scenario. So like you need to have some type of strategy that you know is going to work going into every match.
Yeah, I think we can get into a different realm. Like if you look at ancient Greeks, Spartans, Aztecs, we'll look at ancient civilizations, samurais. Like obviously, it's not that deep, bro. But they did have a mindset of do or die. Like you
Yeah,
can't be afraid to lose or make mistakes. You have to be willing to put it on the line. Whether that's in a game, because wrestling is a game, it's a physical game. But you have to have like burn the boats essentially.
100%.
No hesitate. Like this is exactly when you say underhook high crotch, underhook
Oh,
robot. You know?
yeah,
Like you just have to know what you're going to go for and like be able to live and die kind of by that a little bit and be comfortable with the outcome. So
yeah.
surrender in a
It,
sense.
yeah, it's that mindset of like, yeah, if I die, I die. Yeah, in a wrestling match, you're probably not gonna die, but like if you just have that confidence of like, yeah, whatever happens, happens, and I'm committed to what I'm gonna do, you're gonna compete at a much higher level.
I think a lot of guys would learn a lot and improve their mental. And you could probably attest to this, Art of War by Sun Tzu, learning about ancient civilizations, going back and like looking at history and reading about not only other cultures but your own culture. I
Yeah,
know this is gonna, you have to know your identity, right? It's a big part of being growing as a person, and so I try to like tell people to embrace that, who you are, and not be afraid to be who you are, because my style is going to be different than your style, and our personalities and backgrounds play into the style.
yeah, exactly.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to your point of going back in history, if you really think about it, like I used to think about this when I was in high school. Wrestlers are like the Navy SEALs of everyday athletes, right? Like the things we do compared to, and I'm not saying this to bash any other sport, but it's true. Like the things we do compared to other athletes are, yeah, night and day, right? Like we are modern gladiators. So if you study history, you'll understand the mindset that it takes to be successful. And it's, yeah, that burn the boats mindset.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was in college and I wrestled up at Brockport, our coach, Coach Jay, would be like, "These other guys on campus, they're civilians. Like they're the
Yeah.
regular," and he would like really hype you up and get you to buy in. But it's absolutely true. It's like the only scholastic sport that's contact combat.
Yeah.
Wrestling is a whole different in its own category. Even like there's other sports, and we'll definitely talk about the value the other time. Like even a tennis, a golf, like it's getting into there's value in it, but
100%.
it's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different skill, different constraints, different. And I do believe that I brought it up. Like a wrestler should cross train in those things.
Yes.
They don't burn out. Maybe the juggling, the flow rope. You're saying, because it can get boring after a while. Let's be real. It can get
Yeah.
monotonous.
I, in my opinion, like, and this is true for me. I talked to one of my guys from W&J not too long ago, and he had a similar experience. Like, I've made really big gains in wrestling when I didn't wrestle for like a month and a half, 2 months at a time. Like right after the season, you take some time off, you don't even think about wrestling, you come back, and it's almost like you downloaded new skills because you gave your body and your mind the break that it needed.
Yeah, rest and recovery, right? It's underrated. I was on another call earlier, and I want to mention it now. Like after the season ends, whether it's a high school or college, it could be any sport. We'll just use wrestling. Like there needs to be a deep off season entry. I was
Yeah.
trying to like talk to them about this. Like you need to take like a week off or 2 weeks off, not sedentary on the couch, but not on the mat. I
Yeah.
know taken out of context for the listener. Like you should not. You should take a break. 7 to 14 days would be ideal.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, minimum
100%.
effective dose. I like that.
Yeah.
Effective,
Yeah. Like,
right?
take the
Like
time off, feel good, but at the same time, like, still get some type of movement in.
yes, I think that for a long time, and you could tell me how you feel. We'll get into a training thing. So wrestling is an anaerobic sport, right? And everyone like discovered this, and it's like they discovered fire. But
Yeah.
there's value in aerobic capacity and aerobic activity. And if you don't have a strong aerobic base, this is for the listeners, they might not be able to follow, but Nick is 100% with me. You're not going to be able to tap into, let's call it the anaerobic threshold.
Right.
How do you feel about that? How do you design that? Like, how would you go about doing that? Longer runs and the sprints? Like, how would you, Tabata? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of biking, right? Because as someone who dealt with a lot of knee injuries in the past, I think biking is great. Like you get on a spin bike, and from my experience and a lot of the athletes that I've worked with, like not everyone likes to run. If you like to run, awesome. Go for the long runs. Keep a nice steady pace. If you're like me and you kind of get bored sometimes running, like I put on a podcast, put on an audiobook, keep a steady pace on the bike. Go on literally any piece of cardio equipment that you enjoy, take some strain off the joints, and yeah, just go, but stay consistent for a long period of times. I think for younger athletes, it's easy to just say like, "Oh, this is boring. I'm on the thing for 45 minutes and I'm not really like going hard. I'm not, picking the pace up." And so a lot of them will just kind of push it off to the side, but I absolutely agree. You need the aerobic side, right? You've got to be training all of your body's energy systems if you want to be a well-balanced athlete.
Yeah, I just see there's like a big push. I see a lot of strength and conditioning stuff, and obviously, like I can't respond to everything or make a video that, like today, I was talking about goal setting. Like that's a completely different thing. But I do see this a lot, and like, yes, you want to use wrestling to get into wrestling shape. Like obviously, nothing else translates. But how are you going to tell me that a kid with like if Nick, you're the athlete and you like biking and you have a strong aerobic base, you're going to be able to last at the tournament.
Absolutely.
You're going to have more gas in your tank. Like whatever analogy we have to use to get to the kid's head, it's important.
I actually have like personal experience with this, right? So when I was going into my freshman year of high school, this was like a turning point for me in my life because in eighth grade, just so all the viewers know, I was not good at wrestling in middle school. I want everybody to know that. I didn't win. I maybe won one match in all of middle school, right? I was awful. And going into freshman year of high school, I was like, nah, I want to get good at this. I don't like losing. I want to be good. So I didn't have access to a wrestling club. All I did was bike every single day for like 45 minutes. And I did insanity, Sean T's insanity workouts. So I did 2 cardio workouts per day. Didn't have access to a gym. That's all I did. And I built an insane cardio base. Came back, went undefeated first half of my season here in New Jersey. And I was like, what happened? I didn't do any wrestling training, but I built such a wide aerobic base that it absolutely helped me win more matches.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I look at this, and I had an old mentor, an old author who used to write a lot of books, Ross Enamite. Are you familiar with Ross? I don't.
No, not at all.
He's now a boxing trainer for Katie,
Okay.
who's like from Ireland, and he used to put out a lot of like training content specifically for combat sports. A lot of stuff we're talking about, and I used to follow a lot of his workouts. He was like one of the first guys to talk about burpees. Now everyone does burpees,
Yeah.
things, right? So he's awesome. His content is awesome, and the same thing. Like conditioning is the key that unlocks all your other skills. So you can be the most talented, the most explosive, the strongest guy, but conditioning is really the key in the lock that unlocks all those other, let's call them special qualities, like a West Side bar, special strengths. Let's call it like that's their terminology, speed
Right.
strength, that type of thing. So in our sport, in combat sports, you definitely need conditioning. It could be a weapon. We didn't even get into that, hand fighting wise, but not in the old school, like, which I still believe in. There's a value in it, like hand fighting to death,
Yeah.
fighting someone to death. But there's other ways to break somebody too in a match, in a match, just from riding strongly.
100%. 100%. I think top is honestly one of the most underemphasized ways to break somebody. I had a lot of my college guys, big neutral guys, and I love wrestling on my feet, don't get me wrong. But top wrestling is by far my favorite position because if you can ride somebody out on top, right? Most guys realistically only have maybe 3 good stand-ups, if that. And if you get a big mat return and you really drop them, second or third time, they're not getting back up. So if you can mat return somebody 2, 3 times, what's up to my man Diesel? Break them down and get a tight waist or a near wrist. Yeah, they're not getting out. Next period, they're mentally broken. You go on your feet and you finish the match.
I'm so glad you brought this up. So I don't know if you know Antoine. I'm sure you guys are around the same age. He was on yesterday. We were
Mm-hmm.
talking about match strategy and like top wrestling. And one of the things we were talking about is like a really good match, right?
Yeah,
It's typically 0-0.
yeah,
So in terms of match strategy, right? You're a neutral and break their soul. I love it. Crush them. It's 0-0, and most coaches auto bottom. You know
yeah.
about bottom? Like everyone like bottom. Like no, like that's a big high school thing. And then obviously
Right.
college, like it's like wait, Jimmy's good at neutral. Let's put him on his feet.
Yeah.
Pressure for top. Hell yeah. Yeah, you going off the mat returns, you can really break somebody. But one of the things when I'm doing like performance evaluations is like, did you mat return? Did you make an attempt to mat return? Did you put
Yes.
on the hands? Did you look to pin, not just ride?
Yeah.
Not so. Like, obviously, when I'm working with athletes, we're doing match evaluation, performance evaluations. Those are like indicators, like KPI, like indicators I would use to see their progress, right? But yeah, top is everything. Top has less to do with athleticism. I know this is like a let's talk about strength and conditioning, let's talk about speed. But at the end of the day, there's this crazy thing. It's called genetics,
Right.
where a guy might be faster than you or more athletic. So even if he takes you down, right, and you're down 3-0 in the going into the second, if he's going to take bottom, most guys are going to take bottom. They want
Right.
the escape. And say you're a good leg rider or a good tilt person, you're going to turn them
Yeah.
at least one set. You're in the match. And
Yeah. And
does that
with the new college rules too, I mean, if you get four backs, now you're winning.
yeah, there's a four. It's a four count.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think that top is really like it's still like undervalued, underutilized, especially in high school. Forget it.
Absolutely.
Forget it.
Absolutely. I think so many like so many clubs only focus on neutral, and neutral's great, right? But if you have a wrestler who, like you said, like, all right, let's take somebody who's good on their feet and someone who's good on their feet, but they're also good on top. The second person is going to win more matches by far because not only can they take you down, they can also turn you and ride you out.
I was doing a small group training with these college wrestlers out here on Long Island. Not too like I think it was Columbus Day, Monday night, and I
Yeah,
was telling you know, you're instilling fear. If your opponents know you're good on top, then you're going to get more takedowns. It's this weird. I was saying it's this weird effect because now you're in their head. So it's like an MMA fighter who's fighting somebody who has good takedowns. They could throw punches because they're not afraid to be taken down. I know this is like
yeah,
it's the same. It's very similar in the sense that the better you on top, the more takedowns you're going to get because the person doesn't want to be on bottom and zero
exactly.
in their head. Like I don't know about you. What are your favorite turns on top series to teach kids? Obviously, tell us a little bit about Diesel's here. Tell us a little bit about the academy and what you're doing, and you
Yeah.
know, because quite fast. I want to get your message out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, head coach for the boys here at Diesel Wrestling Academy. Come see me every Wednesday at 7 p.m. But yeah, basically, one of my biggest points of emphasis is top wrestling, right? So, yeah, we focus on drilling on our feet, but at the end of every practice, we're going on top. Go to tilt or go-to turn is a Turk. I think it's one of the most underutilized but most dominant positions in wrestling. If you get a Turk on somebody and you have it above the knee, like you're turning them, right? And not only that, but going on to your theme of mentally breaking somebody, if you grab somebody, you put them in a Turk, you get their leg, and you put it up next to their ear like they're talking to the phone, you're inflicting a ton of pain on them, and the person's gonna break. Like if you bend somebody's spine like that, they're not having a good time. If you do that two or three times, you won the match mentally. They're not in the match anymore. I've seen it myself. And yeah, so I would say Turks, and I'm a big leg rider, big figure four guy, big power half guy. Just inflicting pain on your opponent, in a legal way, obviously, but yeah, you want to make it hurt because then they're not going to be incentivized to stand up as much.
Yeah, and you have um, Coach. You got Coach Cabrera there. He's big on this stuff too with the strength. I know this about the figure four riding. Like he's also a jiu-jitsu guy as well. So like this is a big thing I talk about too. And I know you train too. Grappling is like complementing the styles.
Yeah,
Like you making in wrestling people uncomfortable. So the more discomfort you put, obviously the more opportunities to score. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all those things. I would just add, and this could probably help you guys. Like the other night, we were doing transitions. Obviously
yeah,
more group, but transitioning from takedown to turn. There, and I was telling them that there's this window, and it's when they're bellying down. When you drive them to their hip, you have arm Turk and leg Turk. It's like kind of old school, but it should make a comeback. It's if you get it, you're gonna get automatic backs, you know.
100%.
So that was what we were focusing on primarily as transition from takedown to turn. Butterfly hooks help, but yeah, we're gonna answer all these. I like that he's doing a score. Yeah, score drill. Yeah, we used to drill at Hunter, takedown turn, like
Yeah,
automatic. Boom, score drill. So I like that Coach Pavia said that. Yeah, we
it's
got some. I'm excited. This is a good turnout.
yeah. No, the score is huge, right? Because if you look at all high level wrestlers, they all have the ability to turn somebody as soon as they take them down. Every single one of them has the ability to go right into some type of turn after they get a takedown. That's what separates the great wrestlers from the good wrestlers.
Yeah, look at Spencer Lee. I did.
Exactly.
I talk about a lot of these guys a lot in like the newsletter and the blog because they're their best example. The kid, the person looking at it, the athlete can look it up quickly on YouTube. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, like it's because of freestyle and Greco. Like we didn't even touch on that. I know you're at the like these kids need to cross train.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. Like, that's honestly one of the biggest things looking back on my career. I'm like, man, I didn't even know freestyle and Greco was a thing when I was in high school because I'm the first person in my family that wrestled. So all of my kids at Diesel, I'm like, yeah, you need to wrestle freestyle and Greco. Like, you need to. It's not even an option because you get so much better positionally.
Definitely. Yeah, I wish I capitalized it on more to personalize it for sure. I see it now as a coach. Like we had a lot of kids at 100 like who like the U23 freestyle and Greco go out to Ohio, and those kids were always came back the next season. They were like my guy Gavor, he did the tilt, the elbow in tilt or like whatever we're calling it. He's so good at the tilts because he came from a freestyle background. And
Yeah, absolutely. And like Coach is saying here, Greco makes you so much more physical. It's you can't even compare it. Like, your hand fighting is going to get so much better if you learn Greco. I honestly wish I would have competed Greco because I love upper body. I love to throw, and I think it's, especially here in the U.S., it's so underrated. Like, we got to develop Greco more here in the States.
yeah, and just a lot of the time because I'm an upperweight, I'm teaching like how to utilize the Greco for folk stuff, like the underhook high crotch. You said like those types of series I like to teach, or like a 2-on-1 to leg attacks.
Yeah,
Like I do a lot of that stuff in terms of like technical, because my thing with wrestling technique, since we're on it, is like unless you're a special guy, unless you can learn to wrestle like this, but wrestling from space typically is for more advanced guy. For younger guys, if I came through to the club, beginner wrestler, like I'm going to teach them how to wrestle from a tie, from the.
absolutely. Yeah, unless you're genetically gifted, like, yeah, you need to wrestle from a tile. Even if you are genetically gifted, you're going to be a more
Don't
complete
know how.
wrestler.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? So even if you are going to wrestle from space and that's what you're naturally good at, we're still going to definitely teach you how to wrestle from a tie, and I love those things too. So freestyle helps you with transition, take down a lace, take down a gut. Yeah,
Yes.
100%. Got some good comments from Coach Pavia there. He's the man. Oh, Daza left. See if we can get him back on. Don't know what happened. But yeah, if you are on, we'll definitely. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me? Awesome.
Yeah, it's all good. I know you got to jump shortly. Let's see if there's any questions in here and kind of address.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
I,
I'm good for another like 20, 25
uh,
minutes.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, someone was like best martial art to do. I mean, it is a wrestling in
Yeah.
IG
Listen,
live.
brother, I'm a wrestler going into jiu-jitsu, and I'm not gonna act cocky, but I definitely have an advantage having a wrestling background. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I shoot a head outside shot and I get choked out, but the base that you build from wrestling is absolutely gonna give you an advantage, and also just the mindset, like just the go 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 savage mentality. You can't teach that in any other sport.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the times you see wrestlers get into striking and they do really well because it's not their physical gifts, it's the mindset that they're applying to striking. I think boxing is the best one though. I'm gonna go old school. I'm gonna go Western boxing, old school, tough gym, Apollo Creed,
There you
learning how to
go.
beats and hands like Rocky. Like if you actually like, there's not as many coaches now, but if you go to an old school, I know there's a bunch out in Jersey, like in Newark, in the cities. There's a
Mhm.
bunch like old like in the Bronx. Like there's these like some of these spots still. That's like the real deal stuff right there. That's like how wrestling is. They have a system. These old
Yeah.
school. So shout out to those guys. They know what they help the youth. They help kids out a lot. Nick, tell us a little bit about the non for profit. I
Yeah.
actually brought it up recently on a podcast I was on. So
I appreciate that, man.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so I started the nonprofit with a buddy of mine, right? We grew up wrestling together. He's from New Brunswick. I'm from South Brunswick, and both of us got the opportunity to go overseas and compete a little bit after high school. And we were just talking, and we were like, "Yeah, like if it wasn't for wrestling, like we would have never had those opportunities to go compete, but also go to college, get an education, like leave our hometowns." And so we decided, like, hey, what's a way that we can make wrestling more accessible to other people? Because unless you come from a family where, yeah, your grandpa, your dad, everybody wrestled, like you don't really understand what it takes to get to the highest level of sport. Like me personally, like I said, I didn't know freestyle and Greco was even a thing. Nobody told me, right? If you take a kid, right, say from the inner city, because that's a lot of the environment that we're around, New Jersey, New York, you take a kid that has natural athletic talent and you basically give him the blueprint of like, all right, this is what you got to do if you want to get to the highest level. What level could that kid get to if he had the resources earlier on? And so that's what we're trying to do with SISU Dark Horse is provide opportunities for competition and training at a higher level to those that don't have it. So eliminating barriers to entry. Right now, what we're doing is we're hosting a tournament November 16th, South Brunswick, my hometown, Crossroads South Middle School. It's going to be called the Veterans Day Classic. So it's going to be a high school tournament, boys and girls, and it's also going to be a veteran assistance event. So it's going to honor Veterans Day, have some opportunities for veterans to register for. Yeah, shout out to Diesel, he understands. But yeah, so he's going to be there. He's part of the local VFW, going to help out some veterans, going to raise some money, and the goal is to build a program for the local towns. So in all four Brunswick, right, North, New, South, and East, only one of them has a rec wrestling program,
Mm,
and that's it's horrible because I came up in the PAL program. I started wrestling in fourth grade. The program since the elimination of our PAL has gone downhill, and I don't say that to disrespect the program, but it's a fact, right? So how can we change that? We need to get these kids back into the sport at a younger age, and the way we do that is creating Team Dark Horse, which is going to be an opportunity for kids from South, North, and New Brunswick to all get into the sport before middle school and develop themselves at the highest level.
that's awesome. Yeah, this sounds it's exciting and it's a great opportunity. You're giving back to your local. And yeah, PAL. I remember when we were coming up, my brother and I. There was a PAL like box here in New York. Speaking of, and that's what we used to go to, because like it was essentially just me and him learning and figuring things out. Single parent household,
Yeah,
mom working multiple jobs. So I really didn't get into the wrestling just to personalize it until eighth, ninth grade. I really just started learning because like me and the boys would get together and go on the turf, and they would show me stuff they learned and modified. We have modified here in New York. Middle school is you guys in Jersey do the right thing. You call it middle school states. You have middle school leagues. That's what helps Jersey just really like funnel and like develop their middle school is everything. Is where I'm going with that statement. Middle school is really your big. A lot of people overlook middle school, or I don't want to coach middle school. And middle school's tough. Like that's a
yeah,
tough age, definitely,
yeah,
absolutely. But if you're trying to build a wrestling program and you're trying to build that type of environment, you need a strong feeder program. You need a strong middle school. You might be trying to get like a guy like Dazza, Nick, you to somebody who just finished college, like to come in with the middle schoolers to like whip them into shape and not, take any what from them.
right,
So
right.
I went on a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, like those types of resources. That's why I supported it. I totally got it. And I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about it because that's really why I started wrestling. My brother was like, yeah, you should definitely wrestle. Like, because back then there was really no opportunity to learn wrestling outside of high school and college.
Absolutely.
Still not like it, but they're like the adult wrestling resources are limited. But if you didn't learn in high school, you ain't learning it, pal. Go back
No,
to the.
yeah, it's not happening.
So that's a little bit of my story, and like, I just understand, and I'm down to support it. And let these kids get at it earlier. Give them an opportunity.
100%.
Listen, it's not equal results; it's equal opportunity. It's a big difference. Like no one's saying about the ribbons.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's the way I see it is like I know for me, wrestling changed my life. Like I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for wrestling. And if you could just change like one kid's life, like if you could just get one kid into the sport and just completely change the trajectory of their life, then everything we're doing with Dark Horse is worth it. Everything. That's all that matters, right? But what if we could do that on a larger scale? What if we could build an entire program and impact hundreds, thousands, millions of people by getting them into wrestling at a younger age? Because, in my opinion, like there's no better vehicle for self development than the sport of wrestling. Because if you win, awesome, you earn the victory. But if you lose, that's on you. You have to take accountability and you have to make the adjustments. And I don't think any other team sport forces you to look at yourself in the mirror and accept that reality the way that wrestling does.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you're like, when we were talking about reading history and looking at the civilization, gladiators, like, essentially wrestling is the only sport in the scholastic system that has a clear meritocracy with a clear winner and a clear loser. I know in a lot of suburban towns, a lot of towns, things are very politicized. Like,
Yeah.
oh, your last name isn't Jimmy John, so you're not going to be the QB.
Right.
Like, that's whack. That's not real. In the real world, real results get real things done. Not because of like who you know can matters, but at the same time, like that could be, you still have to have a mindset where it's like, I'm going to put the work in regardless. And I think it's good that kids learn that early on, because it's like they get to see my direct work goes to my direct result. They start to see that pattern. And a big thing is about patterns. Like the amount I put in equals the amount I achieve. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we can develop a growth mindset, there it goes again, mindset early on, we're going to get away from a lot of like, I know Nick, as in not, I know Diesel, who's also Nick. I'm Nick too. He's big into talking about the literature behind this, suspension rate, these types of things. I know, and I've done the research. At the end of the day, wrestling, like you said, is the perfect vehicle to remedy a lot of these behavioral, a lot that we're talking about in these communities. And if you
Yeah.
don't, especially for boys in general, like they need this, you know?
Yeah. They need, especially with boys, like they need a healthy outlet to let out their aggression. Like that's something that I'm very thankful I found wrestling for because yeah, if you're a young kid and maybe you don't have the most resources or you might have had a troubled upbringing, you're getting into fights in school. Like I lived it. Like I was choking kids out on the playground in middle school because I watched too much WWE. And then I found wrestling
The
and
stuff.
it's like, oh, I'm not getting the tension for this. I'm getting my hand raised and there's a gym full of people cheering for me because I'm doing it the right way, because I'm building the discipline and I'm building the self control to understand, like, yeah, I can do this to somebody, but just because I can do it doesn't mean I need to do it, right? I have the self control to understand when I should and shouldn't use my physical abilities to do something violent.
Yeah, definitely. Channeling the channeling the energy, 100%, absolutely. Like this is like for the coaches here, and they're like, yeah, like of course, but rock bottom. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that too. WWF days. I mean, even like a little older than you, so we were, and my brother is older, so it was like jumping off the top rope. We were driving the whole place crazy.
Yeah.
The house. So
We used to have a trampoline, and I would literally climb up on a ladder, and I would jump off the ladder onto the trampoline and like jump on my cousin.
That's hilarious. I say I think also here's the deal, and I'm gonna go on a little bit of a culture thing. Like, so everything now is very superficial. Like even this chat, we're not rubbing elbows, which is like where the magic happens, where sales happen, where relationships happen. You need to like these tools are just tools, and like we need to leverage technology. That's what's so amazing because we can have this talk from New York and New Jersey, but at the same time, there's nothing really profound anymore.
Yeah.
And so if you give a kid a written letter, if you give them a trophy, if you give them something physical and tangible, they don't get that. They get likes, they get shares, they get views. So we grew up you're like in the transitionary period, but not to sound like back in my day, but they're yelling at the clouds. There is value in culture and building a culture and having an environment where young people could be part of something. Because now, where are they going to look for it? On Discord?
Right.
Like, you need to create a place, and that's what you guys have been able to do out there. and create an environment where kids can learn teamwork, resilience, respect. I know that's a bad word now, respect. Like, but you need to learn these, and when you're in an environment with common goals, values, and like virtues, like that's what young people are really looking for.
Yeah, it's what they need. I mean, they need,
Purpose.
yeah, like Diesel saying, right? They need a sense of purpose. If you don't have a sense of purpose in your life, you're just going through the motions, right? You're just doing whatever's easiest. And a life where you're just doing whatever's easiest is never going to be a life where you're fulfilled.
That's very true. I think because we reinforce that people should be happy instead of finding a purpose, passion, meaning. If you just do what makes you feel good, end up eating ice cream every day and watching Netflix. Like,
Yeah,
but I think with mental toughness and stuff like that, is going outside the comfort zone. Like, it's a great thing. I see you doing a lot of traveling
yeah,
and like getting yourself out. Like that's where the money is made in terms of broadening your horizons.
absolutely. Absolutely, man. And just speaking on, the idea of like mental toughness, broadening your horizons, that's something that I've kind of gone through in the last like month and a half, right? So
Yeah, tell us.
yeah, a little bit of context, right? So I was building the business, right? Got Diesel, we got the nonprofit, we have Daz Elite for strength training, and at the same time that I was doing all this, I was also working a 9 to 5,
Wow.
and so I was working in sales, juggling all these different things. I got to the point where I was basically offered an opportunity to go meet one of my mentors in Europe, right? Guy who I've been learning from for the last 4 or 5 years online, everything that I know about strength training. And I was like, you know what? It's like it's time to go all in, right? So next day, quit my job, bought my ticket, went out there, and yeah, ever since, like I've just been doing what I do now, and it's the greatest decision I ever made because one, it forces you to be all in, not just on your business, but on who you are and your identity, right? Like you gotta, yeah, like Diesel saying, you gotta bet on yourself. And what I've learned since doing that is one, if you fully commit to something and you believe 110% in yourself and your abilities, the opportunities present themselves. And it's just like a testament to not falling into fear and that wrestling mindset. Because if I didn't wrestle, yeah, I'd be freaking out right now. But things have worked out better than I could have expected because I decided to go all in. And I just want to say that to anybody who's like in between decisions, like, do I do this? Do I not do it? Like, yeah, bet on yourself. Don't doubt yourself at all. Be 110% confident. The opportunities will present themselves, no doubt.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'm glad you made that jump. Was that your first time going overseas to Europe? I know you travel to, is it Colombia a lot? Yeah, you go
Yeah,
down
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I was born in Colombia. I've been back and forth there, but yeah, first time on that side of the world, and yeah, it was
like
incredible.
this. Yeah, no, that's great. That's getting outside your comfort zone, guys. That's being in a new place. You don't know the language, the currency, how to read the signs. I mean, all
Yeah,
that stuff is a factor, like about getting tougher. People
yeah,
think tough running until you puke. To me, that's easy.
yeah,
I could do 1,000 push-ups. Like I'm not gonna quit. It's like that Will Smith quote, like put me on the treadmill. That's easy.
yeah,
What's hard? Like, all right, solve this Rubik's Cube, kid. Draw this painting.
100%.
Learn how to speak Spanish, which I'm still trying to work on. Everyone says it's easy. Coco, we will get you to the gym sometime soon. Yes, yoked. But no, all seriousness and like all jokes aside, like, yeah, fear is just false evidence appearing real. So
Yes,
fear,
yes,
all great things are on the other side of our comfort zone. Um, that's where the magic happens, and that's where you really are going to make the biggest leaps. And I always notice, and I tell our athletes, like, before a breakthrough, there's a breakdown. You
yes,
want to cry, you want to like yell, you want to scream, like you want to say like, I don't want to do this anymore. You basically your breaking point is either like going to be a breakthrough or a fall back. And so it's always important to remember that when you're on the verge of something great. I've noticed that.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the biggest things in regards to fear is like the only thing that really exists is the present moment, right? So fear a lot of times is us worrying and obsessing about a reality that hasn't even occurred yet, right? It's not even real. It's just something that we're creating in our minds, and it's so easy for us to go super deep into that and spiral into that. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? But what you don't realize is you can also take that same energy and put it into the things that you've always wanted out of life, right? Like, what if you obsessively focused on like everything you've wanted in your life, on all of your dreams coming true, on all of your success that you want for your life, for your business, for your career as an athlete? If you do that, you're going to attract more of that and less of the bad things. So, yeah, it takes the same amount of energy to think positively as it does to think negatively.
Yeah, a mentor of mine and a close friend who's done very well, and definitely in a different space, real estate, financial. Did not come from anything. That you He always says, like, you are what you attract, you are what you manifest. Like, if you're looking for people who have a problem with you, you're going to find a problem. If you're always looking for, if for somebody's trying to get out to get you, say you're in business, or like, you're going to attract that with the energy. So that's a big part of this. I think one last thing, I guess I would help the kids and help coaches is developing a team. Your staff, like, Diesel's really, like, that's great. You guys are together, collaborating with others, like-minded men group. Like, collaboration is key. And kids, just like understanding, like, not everyone has your best interest. Have a little bit of street smarts, like, understand not everyone's your friend.
Hundred
Like,
percent, 100%. You gotta surround yourself with the right people, and people that have your best interests in mind, not that are just here because you're another dollar sign at their facility.
oh yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
I think with business and stuff, it shouldn't come from like what it costs. It should be like, what can I provide? So it's why every first call is for a consultation, goal setting. I want someone to walk away like they did 10 sessions, regardless if we work together or not. Like, you could hit me up anytime. There's no gatekeeping here, because they're going to get the information regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no need to get, there's
yeah.
scarcity mindset, and it's easy to fall back into that. But like, what is there to protect? To lose?
Right, right. You have to provide the value, and when people see the value you can provide, then yeah, the investment isn't even a question. It's, yeah, this is the right person for me. This is who I'm going to work with.
What's wonderful and what we do is that it's an investment, and it can make a difference, and it actually changes life. It's
Hmm.
not. It's not. It has a powerful meaning. It has a powerful impact. It can change somebody's life. So, um, again, we waste money on Netflix and Starbucks coffees. I don't, but people do. So, like, you might as well make an investment in your health and your family. And
Yeah,
you know,
that's funny you say that because I was listening to. Are you familiar with Grant Cardone?
yeah, of course.
So I was listening to his audiobook this morning, and he talks about how one of the most common objections you get is price, right? Like, oh, it's too expensive, it's too much money. And it's like, yeah, like, it's a lot of money, right? It is an investment, but there is no scarcity of money in this world. Like, if I told you, all right, yeah, I'm going to get you your favorite car today, say a BMW, brand new, your favorite color, $1,000, right? Whatever the cost of the program is, a $40,000 car, but you have 24 hours to get me the money, you'd find a way to get that money. Like, if you have to put it on a credit card, if you got to ask your mom for it, if you have to take out a loan, doesn't matter. You'd find a way to get that money. So it's all about what you value. It's not about the cost of the item itself.
Yeah. Usually, the cost objection is just because the person doesn't see the value yet.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
and so at least if you're making an investment in your future. I think that's super important. I think that making sure we value health above everything else. Health is superior to wealth. Health is everything. And
Absolutely.
I think that when you make things only about money, you could be manipulated through vices. So, like, if you don't have a strong foundation, like we were talking about identity earlier, if you don't know who you are, what you stand for, what your belief system is, you can be easily manipulated with money, with certain things, material, whatever. So it's very important to know who you are and what you stand for, is where I'm going with this. And
Yeah,
come to wrestling, because you can learn a lot of things to, stand for and learn about for the kids.
absolutely.
So that's it. I know you got to jump. Is there anything else you'd like to plug, and anything you'd like to say? We had a lot of interactions here. This was awesome. We got to do this
Yeah, no,
again.
I really do appreciate the opportunity you have me on here. Yeah, like I said, Diesel Wrestling, UFC Gym, North Brunswick. If you guys are high school athletes, college athletes, come get better. I also have my gym here. I'm actually here in Saddlebrook, my other gym where I do strength training. The Key, we're in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. And then SISU Dark Horse, Our tournament is November 16th at Crossroads South Middle School, South Brunswick.
Godspeed, brother. Let's
Thank you. I appreciate you having
let's
me.
work. Thank you for
All
your time.
right.
Have a great
Yeah,
night.
we'll talk soon. Be
Appreciate
safe.
it. Bye bye. All right, there you guys have it. Coach Nick in the building came on. We'll definitely share this out. I'll get it out to you guys. Follow him at Daza Elite. It was great to ask him some questions, get a little bit of his philosophy, and see where he's coming from. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll definitely get and do more of these if the feedback is positive. Leave a comment below, share it with a friend. Let us know if this helped you and what you learned, because then we'll be able to do more of these. Because this might be free for you, but it ain't free for me. So let's make the most of our time and let's get better together. Hashtag let's work.